Hey, everybody. It's Monday, so you know my voice is cooked from yelling at Little League baseball games. I'm Dan Besbris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball presented by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. You can find me on social media at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. You can follow Old Man Squad over there. And please hit that like button, YouTubers. Subscribe, however you're taking in these shows these days, as we continue to power boost the Old Man Squad. Lots of really cool stuff going on at the channel these days. Noah Rubin, host of the Young Man Squad show here on our network, is hosting a live Q&A every single day this week. Another great reason to subscribe, so you'll get an alert when those live shows go live, and you can get your questions answered over there. Love it, love it, love it. I will be a part of the Tuesday show, I think, on those ones. Today, here on this episode of Old Man Squad, we are going to be talking about Yahoo pre-rank risers. These are the guys that are zooming up the Yahoo board. I can't call them like hype train guys because I don't know exactly what it's going to do to their ADP, but I do know that I've highlighted in yellow, for those that are watching, the names that I think are the most impactful of these up and down moves. You'll also notice that we're just looking at my Google Sheet. I didn't bother to put them into a Word document. I think that's unnecessary. It's extra work for me. And this way, you guys can actually see the other names that moved in addition to the ones that I'm actually going to talk about. So I think this is better. You guys can let me know in the comments if you think it's better or worse. I'll do whatever you guys like more. I just think this way you actually get more information on your screen if you're watching with us live. And those that are listening, you're going to get the exact same experience anyway. In addition, if you're watching, and I don't want to say that I would suggest everybody go watch. I know video is video and audio is audio. I think we actually make more money on the audio version of the show. So everybody go listen to it. Screw video. But if you happen to be watching, you'll also see on your screen all of the changes to a player's pre-rank over the last 2 months, basically, because I've been tracking all of them on this same page. This is all completely free if you guys want to look at this after the fact, or if you're listening and you want to pull it up on a screen on the side or whatever. This link is in the show description. I believe I've referred to it as the Dan Besbris super Google sheet where everything is free. I think it says, check out Dan's buckets, Yahoo ranks, ADP movement, etc. That link is in the show description. You can get this again for free for always. Free for always. Let's get into it. You guys have heard enough preamble. Isaiah Jackson is the first name on the board. He's the biggest mover on the latest Yahoo sheet, and by a lot. He actually jumped 274 slots from number 419 to number 145. That's a ridiculous change, but also he should never have been down at 419. It seems like it was perhaps a bit of an oversight on the Yahoo board that they put out on October 1st, because he was actually number 200 on the board on September 22nd. And, if you really want to think about it, he probably went really from like 200 to 145. The reason I bring this one up is that we've been pretty high on Isaiah Jackson. We've had a number of guests on the show that have also been high on Isaiah Jackson. And now this changes how you have to think about him in fantasy drafts, because when he was down at 200 even, forget 419, when he was down at 200, you still had to scroll the board pretty far to see him. Even in the last round, you'd often have to scroll the board down 50, 60 players. So a few boards worth of names had to be scrolled past. And now you don't anymore. As you get to your 12th round, your 13th round, his is a name that's going to start to pop up on people's screens. So those that you're drafting against in fantasy leagues who are just looking at pre-rank and not really doing a lot of scrolling, and they don't have their lists or whatever, they're going to see Isaiah Jackson's name and they're going to consider him for their fantasy team, whereas before they wouldn't have even thought about him. So odds are Jackson's ADP is about to skyrocket. I don't know exactly how far it's going to go, but he's going to be a guy that you probably have to take in the 11th or 12th round now, instead of being able to almost in every draft take him as your last pick. He probably won't fall all the way to the 13th anymore. I shouldn't write him off. I mean, Dyson Daniels fell to the 13th in a lot of drafts I did last year after we yelled about him for 2 months. So anything's possible. Tari Eason is the next name on the board. He jumps 40 slots from 141 to 101. You guys that are watching can see that he went at 141 from being one of my favorite plays on the board to being a guy that I think is about accurately ranked at 101. from a per game standpoint, he's likely to beat this number. He's a guy who puts up a lot of fantasy stats without needing a ton of minutes to do it. The problem is we know he's not playing in back-to-backs, and I know Houston doesn't have any the first 7 weeks of the season, so that's helpful. But at some point, those back-to-backs are going to start to happen, and Eason's going to be sitting them out. And so you're looking at a guy that's probably going to be playing something in the low to mid 60s in games. And it's hard to draft a guy around pick 100 who has probably top 75 sort of appeal. He was number 66 last year in what I would classify as probably a bit over his skis in terms of how fast he was putting up defensive stats. Second half of the season, he put up 2.2 defensive stats in 26 minutes a game. That's probably more of a repeatable number for him. And that was top 85 9-cat type of value. And that's, to me, he's probably going to be a guy that's between 60 and 95, but missing a bunch of time. And at pick 141, that was one of my favorite things to do, was to take a guy with big per game upside, and I wasn't really all that concerned about what games he was missing. Now you probably have to kind of reclassify him because he's no longer flyer range. Now he's a guy that you just, you have to go get him. And the problem, too, is I got to go back through my buckets and I got to reclassify some guys because sometimes, for those of you that are unfamiliar, I can actually put these on the screen. Also, it's zoomed in a lot. But looking at buckets, I often organize them based on whether I'm higher or lower on a guy than consensus, and I'll move them up a bucket or two. But I don't have to move them up 6 buckets because I don't want you taking them that early. The bucket page is a guidebook to when you guys should be thinking about taking dudes. And now all of a sudden, for someone like Tari Eason, who just got pushed up a lot, I'm going to have to adjust his bucket to make sure that you guys either do or don't get particular players. So it's all about trying to plan out your draft as opposed to actual, what's the final rank of this guy going to be. In any event, I would still take Eason at 101, depending on who else is on the board, but he's not a guy that I'm trying to get in every draft at that spot. Ayo Dosunmu up 31 slots, He's now number 128, which is back kind of where he started. I don't really know why he's been moving around as much as he has. He's not a guy I'm super into. I like his fantasy game, but he played 30 minutes a game last year, and he really didn't do a whole lot with it. He's a dude that is, and I don't know if we're going to have time to do this show, but he's a guy that's a one-away player. I don't know if you guys remember that show we did leading up to the season last year. I called them the one-away guys, or the next man ups, or the next man's up. Whatever. However you want to classify them, Dosunmu is a guy who likely needs Kobe White or Josh Giddey to probably miss time for him to put up enough fantasy value because he is a good percentages guy. He's efficient, but he just doesn't have any usage when those two dudes are still out there. And he's not going to get a ton of assists. He's not going to get a ton of rebounds or threes. He's going to have good percentages, but you have to be able to shoot for those percentages to matter. So I don't care. Dosunmu is there, but he's not a guy I'm drafting pretty much regardless of where he's at in a 12-teamer. Quick reminder on a couple of things, folks. This show is brought to you by our buddies over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Chicago Bulls regular season win total is 32.5. More money coming in on the over, and I actually think that number's pretty good if you're thinking about getting down on it. That's over at FanDuel, presenting sponsor of us here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball and the Believe network of podcasts. I've also mentioned before, if I have helped you win things over the years, I did now open up a Patreon. It doesn't change what I'm going to do on a night-to-night basis. I'm still going to be cranking out a crap ton of podcasts, and I'm going to be doing more on social media than anybody else in the universe, or at least my goal. That's my goal, is to be doing more on social media because I have a built-in desire to scream from the mountaintops. I just like the sound of my own damn voice. And you guys have probably gotten used to that by now. But that's my own voice, audio, video, social, whether it, typed voice. I'm just going to put stuff out there. That's how we grow the Old Man Squad, the show and the network. So I'm going to keep doing it. But many people over the years have asked, Dan, how can I, you won me $500 in my league or whatever. And what can I do? And over the years, I've just been like, you know what? Just keep listening to all the shows. Now I finally opened a Patreon. It's for $1. That's it. It's $1. If you do it, awesome. I'll love you forever. If you don't do it, awesome. I'll still love you forever. It changes nothing. But if over the next 2 or 3 years we can get that Patreon up to a reasonable number, then I can guarantee, you can put the stamp forever, that I will do this stuff for free until the end of time. So it's a way to kind of guarantee it. Again, do it, don't do it. It doesn't change how I feel about you. Let's get back to business. I feel like I'm about to launch into a song from Mulan. Neemias Queta is the next name on the risers board. He's up 28 slots from 188 to 160. The more interesting story on Queta is that overall this fantasy draft season, he's up 120 slots from 280 to 160. He is a guy that I think you should be taking with your last round pick. He is in my Flyers tier number 2 on the buckets board. Apologies. I know my voice is completely destroyed today, and I'm going to try to do 2 shows. God help me if I can get through both of these. And I think you still should be able to get Queta as that second tier Flyer, because 160 is still not that high up on the board. We'll see if he moves any farther. That might be, this from 2 days ago, this might be the last Yahoo board before the season starts. Then they put out the season has started version, but nobody cares about that. Queta looks to me like a third string center for a fantasy team, guy that might get you, 10 and 10, like the old Kurt Thomas line from way back then, give you a little over a block on good percentages. That's useful. It's not going to be a massive needle mover, but I think he's going to be good enough to be rostered. PJ Washington moves back up to 123. He's another guy, just like Ayo Dosunmu, who started in the 120s, dropped 20 spots, and now back up 20 spots again. Overall, much like Dosunmu, he's only moved 3 slots overall this entire fantasy draft season. I don't really know sometimes why Yahoo bounces a guy down and back up again. Nothing really changed for the Mavs. Cooper Flagg is going to be the big man on campus there. Obviously, Anthony Davis is going to be doing a lot of stuff. Dereck Lively, I expect to do a bunch of stuff. Maybe PJ gets in the mix. I'm not drafting PJ unless one of the other big men goes down. Because between Gafford and Lively and AD and Flagg, you've got a lot of size on the Mavs. And I know that Cooper's probably going to be like a point small forward, and so there's still technically room for PJ, but I don't think he's playing the 32 minutes he got last year. I think he's getting in the high 20s, and to me, that ain't enough. Unless, I guess you could make the argument for PJ as a punt free throw guy in that range, but even then, he's probably more like top 100 in a punt free throw build. So I'm not that into PJ Washington this year. It's going to take an injury to change that. He might also be like Dosunmu, a next man up. Davion Mitchell moves up 19 more slots, but again, the story on him is similar to the one on Neemias Queta. He's up 106 slots overall in the entirety of draft season. Started at 224 2 months ago. He's now 118, and I'm not taking him at 118. I don't think Davion Mitchell is going to have value after Tyler Hero comes back. So I don't think I want to take my 10th round pick as a guy that I think is going to be decent for 4 to 6 weeks. That's the kind of thing that you guys might remember from last year. I talked about Al Horford, but that was a guy I was trying to take 130 or later, because I wasn't even sure that it was going to work out. And I feel the same way about Davion Mitchell. He was good down the stretch for Miami last year. Mitchell was, but how good? After he got moved, he was like top 130. The very end of the season, he was top 80, but Andrew Wiggins missed most of those games. So that opened up a few extra shots. And also, Mitchell shot 50% from the field and 80% at the free throw line with almost 2 steals a game and 6 assists. And so maybe he gets to the 6 assists. Maybe we're talking about a guy that can roll top 80 while Tyler Hero is out. But once Hero's back, I think Davion's going to be more like a top 130 type of play. So I don't hate Davion Mitchell, and I think he's on my buckets board somewhere. Flyer tier 4, which is like my last tier of Flyers. But that's because I don't think he's going to last the entire season. I think he's a partial year value, and I'd rather get him later than 118. But I guess, again, like if the board is completely wiped out and it's at that point, you'd rather just take a burger board guy. Take a burger board guy. Dereck Lively is the next name that we're talking about on this program. We're going to start to skip a few names on the list here that are moving a decent amount, but I don't think that they're particularly impactful moves. Lively moves up 18 slots to 96. It is his first real shift of the fantasy draft season. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that it took this long because when healthy, Dereck Lively's been very good. Last year, in just 23 minutes a game, he was number 104 in 9 category leagues. I mean, you're talking about a guy that if he could just stay on the floor, he'd be a pretty easy top 100. He's like Nick Claxton on a team that's trying to win. Even the free throw was a little bit better last year. Lively shot 63%, which is bad, mind you, but you can wipe that out with one good foul shooter. It really doesn't take much to equilibrate off of Dereck Lively. I like his block rate. His block rate is excellent. His rebounding rate is excellent. It sounds like they want to play him at the 5 and AD at the 4, but both guys are quick enough to guard bigger 4s if they had to. I like Dereck Lively a lot as a third center, and now you actually have to pay a little bit to get him. So I never color-coded Lively as someone that I was targeting at 114, but I liked him in the 100 and teens, and now I'm mixed on him at 96. I don't think he's the guy that I want necessarily at 96, but first of all, if you're in a punt free throw build, he's a no-brainer at this spot. If you're going straight 9 cat, he's probably still going to get to this marker, but he's now in a spot where there are like 5 or 6 guys right around him that I'd still prefer over him. So if you're just looking at like the 90 to 100 range on your board, Cam Johnson is at the top of my list there. I like John Collins a lot there. I like Draymond Green in a punt points build there. Devin Vassell has been getting pitched to me a lot, although I don't know if I'm fully sold on him. I like Onyeka Okongwu over Lively because he's a better foul shooter. Santi Aldama is at pick 100. I think I'd probably take him over Lively. And if you go outside the top 100, I mean, you got Josh Hart now at 107. Keegan Murray got hurt. He was on my list. Now he's not anymore. Yeah, I mean, once you get outside the top 100, you probably peel back and you look at Lively again. But if you look in that 90 to 100 range, I think I'd rather Lively. We're going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit. We're going to skip over Jeremy Grant and Isaiah Collier. You guys can see that on the list. I don't care about those guys moving a little bit. We're going to talk about Draymond Green now, who moves up 14 spots. Just like Dereck Lively, he'd been basically right at 110 this entire draft season. He moves with Lively into the mid-90s. I don't think Draymond Green is going to be a mid-90s guy in straight 9 cat this year. I just don't think that honestly, I just don't think that his usage is high enough anymore. He might get there if the defensive stats can hold around what they were down the stretch last season, which was 2.6 combined. But and he was at 3 over the final 15 games, and that got him inside the top 100. He's just like, with Jimmy Butler there, he doesn't need to pass as much. Now they got Al Horford as a stretch 5, so he's not going to need to rebound as much even. His offense has completely fallen off a cliff. I love Draymond Green if you're punting points. I'm not taking him in 9 cat if I'm not punting points. Yeah, that's a simple one. I mean, we know what Draymond is now, and he's slowing by the year. Reed Sheppard is the next name on the board. He is up 14 slots, but again, the overall story is the bigger picture. He's basically gone from 150 to 108 in Yahoo pre-ranks over the last 2 board readjustments. And now, much like, who the hell did we just talk about a second ago that's in that range now? Much like Tari Eason, now you have to actually spend draft capital if you want Reed Sheppard. And much like with Tari Eason, I don't know that he's a guy that I'm necessarily hard targeting right at that spot. Sheppard's at 108, and I don't think there's any kind of guarantee that he gets big minutes unless he proves for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he's going to be a positive on defense. And everybody hates Andrew Wiggins, but I don't actually hate Andrew Wiggins outside the top 100. And I don't hate Josh Hart outside the top 100. And if you go a little bit farther down the board, I don't hate Tobias Harris at 117 or Dante DiVincenzo at 116. And I love Toumani Camara at 120. And Herb Jones at 125 and Bobby Portis at 124. And I think I'm taking all those guys before I take a shot on Sheppard. Now, this one could bite me. I'll tell you guys right now, this one could bite me in the ass and it could bite hard. Because if it hits, Sheppard has really interesting fantasy game appeal. His stat set, because he's a great shooter, like top tier, but he hasn't really had a chance to show it in the NBA yet. So we don't even really know. So no, I'm going to take guys that I think are safer first on that one. Mark Williams, next name on the board. Mark up 13 slots from 89 to 76. He was in the 90s. He never really was. Like, he was ranked in the 90s, but in every intermediate or expert draft that I was in, he was going in the 70s or sometimes even earlier than that. So I don't actually think his ADP is going to change all that much. I wonder if I can find his ADP quickly while we're talking about Mark on today's program. Where are you, Mark Williams? We're going to find you. We're going to find you, and we're going to find you quick. Are you on this page? There he is. 84.1 was his ADP, even when he was pre-ranked 93. So, yeah, I guess it'll go earlier. It'll get into the 70s for real now in all drafts. And that's fine, because he's a top 50 per game center with injury risks. I would rather take a guy in this range that I think has maybe not instead of top 50, but maybe more like top 65, top 70 per game appeal, but I expect to be much healthier. If you're looking at big men, Rudy Gobert, Jakob Poeltl are options, but Mark Williams would be, third or fourth on that list in this range. So this isn't bad. He's just not really a value anymore. Shaedon Sharpe is up 13 spots to number 83. He is like the anti-old man squad kind of guy. I don't want to poop on him too much, because if he got a crap ton of usage, he could be kind of a fun fantasy player, but he's a low percentages guy. So he needs big time, like big usage to get to 9 cat value without a very specific set of punts. He's a points league darling. Shaedon Sharpe, I think, is going to be great in points leagues last year. If you look down the stretch last season, last 10 games, Sharpe was top 25 in points leagues. But in 9 cat, he was top 90. So you can understand he's one of the big gap guys between category league players and points league players. Points leagues, yeah, man, have at him in the 80s. He's going to beat that marker with his eyes closed. Category leagues, I don't know. 8 cat, he was top 60 with maxed out usage last year. 9 cat, as I mentioned, he was top 90 with maxed out usage last year. If you're punting turnovers, he probably makes sense in this range, but I still don't think I want him. If you're punting turnovers and one of the 2 percentages, then he's a great pick in the 80s. So take it or leave it. That's where I'm at with Shaedon Sharpe. I'm probably not going to end up with him on almost any of my teams, because I typically don't like to punt turnovers and something else. But I'm not going to yell at you if you do it, provided I look at the rest of your team and I'm like, yeah, he makes sense there. He fits with the rest of your build. But if you're taking like a regular old 9 cat roto team and you take Shaedon Sharpe at 80, then I'm going to wag my finger at you. I forgot how many players I highlighted. How many more we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's fine. We're doing fine on time. Kevin Porter Jr. is the next name on the board. He's up another 13 spots to number 102. He is up 141 spots overall this draft season, from 243 to 102. And he's another guy, just like Dosunmu. Nope, it wasn't Dosunmu. Just like Tari Eason and just like Reed Sheppard, where now suddenly a guy that you could get as a flyer, you can't really wait on flyer time to take him. Or if you do, it's sort of like the first grouping of them. And that lines up now, because I have Kevin Porter Jr. in my second tier of flyers, if we're looking at my buckets board. And that means that someone else is probably going to take a shot on him before I do, but this isn't that far from where I would look at him. He's a guy I'd rather take with my 11th round pick, but now you probably have to take him with your 9th. I would consider him with my 10th, though. But again, like I've already said, there are guys in this range that I think are guaranteed to have a better season. That's not fair. That's the wrong verbiage. They are guaranteed to have a useful fantasy season in 12-team 9 cat. Still on the board. at Kevin Porter Jr.'s pre-rank and ADP. If those guys have already been drafted, Kevin Porter Jr. comes into my radar. But odds are somebody in that group is still on the board. And I have to go through and I have to fix this now. Because again, if you're looking at my buckets board with me, like Tari Eason, you probably can't wait to take him at flyer tier 1. Maybe you can, but maybe not. But like Brandon Pajemski, I've got there. I'm higher on pods than most. Kevin Porter Jr., there are some warts in his fantasy game. And my big issue with KPJ, forget all this other stuff of like where he's getting drafted and what do you think he's going to do this year. He way overperformed in both percentages with Milwaukee. Field goal percent in particular in Milwaukee last year. This is not a guy, actually, I think it was both. This is not a guy that's a mid-80s free throw shooter or a 50% guy from the field. That's not going to hold. Reality is going to set in, and he's going to go back to being a 44% field goal guy and a 70% free throw guy, or mid-70s, 74, 75, something like that. And when those things hit, he's going to need a lot of usage to get there. Now, there is the caveat of what if Giannis gets moved? Yeah, then obviously that one would hit. But I don't think you can draft based on that being the thing you need to happen. I think folks are too high on KPJ and straight 9-cat. I think he'll make sense in some punt builds because he's like Shaedon Sharpe. He's more of a points league kind of guy. But I don't like to build points league type teams. I end up with teams that are efficient and boring, and they win because they attack categories that a lot of people tend to ignore. It flips the board. All right, I've had you guys looking at the buckets list here for a while. By the way, if you guys are thinking about checking things out and playing a little fantasy basketball this year, and maybe you're still looking to get a league set up, why not check out our friends over at Fantrax.com? It keeps showing my team over there. I want to show you guys the actual board. How do I get to the Fantrax main page? There we go. There's a fan. I'll share this tab. Here's the Fantrax main page. You can see in your press box, you can get all sorts of stuff set up. They've got all these different leaders from last year displayed, but who cares about any of that stuff? The real key is full season fantasy basketball, full season fantasy sports at Fantrax is just better. You got to get used to the UI. For sure, you've got to get used to the UI, and they're constantly making tweaks to make that a little bit more workable for you guys. But from just a straight option standpoint, it's better. Check out fantrax.com/oldmansquad today. That's the link. It's in the show description. Sign up and play with our buddies over there. Austin Reaves is the next name on the board. He's up 11 spots from 51 to 40. He's up from 60 to 40 over the last 2 board readjustments. I still like him at 40. He's no longer one of my favorite plays on the board because I think we've wiped out a good deal of his value. But believe it or not, I actually think he does better than 40. I think he's going to be top 35. I actually think he has a chance to be top 30 if he has a good percentages year. So I still really like Austin Reaves as a 4th-round pick. I like him a lot. I've talked about him a ton on this show, so we're not going to spend a bunch of extra time on him right now. Brandon Ingram is up 11 slots from 67 to 56. And I have to admit, I don't fully understand this one. He's a guy that's been beset by injuries seemingly every year forever. And if you're wondering, Dan, are you being a bit hyperbolic there? The answer is not really. Brandon Ingram, and I'm not just talking about playing 18 games this most recent year, played 64 the year before that, and that was a big win for him because the year before that he played 45, and the year before that he played 55, and he actually was weirdly kind of healthy during the COVID years, only missing like 10 and 11 ball games. But even during his final 2 seasons in Los Angeles, he missed 30 and 23 games. This is a dude where a very good outcome would be only missing 10 ball games, but in all likelihood is probably going to miss 15 or more. That's just the way it's been for Ingram throughout his career. And on top of everything else, he's going to be on a team where he's, I think, going to be more like not this past season when he was taking 18.5 shots a game, but probably more like the year before when he was down closer to 16 shots a game on a New Orleans team that had 2 other guys willing to take the basketball. I would argue the Raptors have 3 other guys willing to take the basketball. So I don't think you're going to get the maxed out Brandon Ingram usage year that we've seen in the past. I don't know. I think he probably can find his way to 20 points per game, which everybody loves 20 points per game. But, 5 and change rebounds, 5-ish assists, That's all. I like 25 and 5, but is he going to have 1.1 defensive stats, or is he going to be at 1.5? He was a little higher again this last year, but smaller sample size. Is he going to be 46 from the field or 48 from the field? He's a guy that, by all accounts, and this is the thing that doesn't really make sense. He's kind of like Jalen Brunson. He's a guy that I feel like I should really like for 9-cat fantasy because he doesn't have a massive weakness in his game other than health, which historically I've been at times willing to overlook. But I don't know that it adds up necessarily. I think there are too many bodies in Toronto, and I don't trust him to stay healthy. 8-cat, he has a shot to be top 60 for sure. 9-cat, almost definitely not. So that can help you make your decision here. But there's no way I'm taking him at 56. Not with the other guys on the board that I think could be better than that in 9-cat without a punt. No. Mikal Bridges jumps 11 spots to number 86. I don't know why he's moving. I don't understand. Not that I think this is wrong necessarily. That's fine. Like where he was before is fine. Where he is now is fine. I just don't know why he's moving. He was number 84 in 9-cat last year. He probably should have been at about 85 right from the get-go. If anything, he probably plays fewer minutes. He played 37 minutes a game for Tibbs last year. And Tom Thibodeau, not there anymore. Played all 82 games. You have to like the durability factor. 85 is exactly where Mikal Bridges should be going. He's going to be a top 100 9-category player who gets you a very small positive in points and threes and percentages and turnovers. And he's like league average in steals and assists. And he's a negative in rebounds and I guess blocks a little bit. I mean, he's basically just like league average in every statistical category, which is very fine and very healthy. This is where he belongs. I have no additional thoughts on Mikal Bridges. I'm not trying to rush through him. I just think that's the entire discussion. We got 3 more names to cover on today's program, and we're getting there, ladies and gentlemen. Name number 1, Zion. Back up the board a little bit. He's been bouncing all over the place. Started at 39, went up to 33, went down to 46. Now he's back at 37. Yeah, he's a yo-yo at this point. And to me, the Zion discussion can be summed up in one phrase. I guess it's a 2-part phrase. If you're punting free throws, have at it, man. If you're not punting free throws, don't do it. Very simple, very straightforward. He is a colossal health risk. I don't care if he's coming into camp a few pounds lighter. That's great, but it doesn't guarantee he's going to make it through the year. Probably increases the chances that he makes it through a year, but it certainly doesn't guarantee it. But he is a terrific punt free throw fit. He's likely to be a 2nd rounder in punt free throw builds, and he's likely to be something like a 7th, 8th, or 9th rounder in if you care about foul shots. And I forget, and I think it was Alex Burns that was on the show a couple days ago that said the thing that you guys always say in the comments section. Can you win the category despite having someone like Giannis or Zion or whatever? Yeah, you could still win free throws. It's just harder. It's harder. And it's just a numbers game. Zion took 8 free throws a game last year, and he hit him at a 66% clip. That is hard to offset if you want to get your foul shooting back up to 80%. He was 14% lower than 80 at 65.6. I'm rounding up to 66. We're going to give him a little bit extra there. 8 free throws a game, 14% under 80%. Meaning, if you want to think this through and you just want to do very simple math, can you find someone who's shooting 94% at the foul line and takes 8 of them a game? You cannot. You can't. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot 90% from the free throw line on 9 a game. Shai and Zion is still a sub-average free throw shooting team. Why? So then I ask you the question, why? Yeah, you could take Shai in the first round, and you could take, who's a good foul shooter going in the second round these days? Tyrese Maxey in the second round, and then take Zion, and you are now an average foul shooting team. But why? Why would you do that? Why would you take a team that was likely to win free throws and turn it into a team that only wins them half of the time. Why? It's just a harder way to play fantasy basketball. You can do it, but it's harder. Instead, why not take a guy like Giannis at the top of the board, and then you can just lean into it? By the way, Zion, as bad as he was at the free throw line, not even close to as bad an impact as Giannis had. Literally, you needed multiple Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders to cover up Giannis. You needed Shai and then Maxey and like Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan, and you still were not quite average. You're close, but not quite. So that's why make life easy on yourself. Just play it the easy way. Jakob Poeltl up 9 spots. Penultimate name here on today's program. He goes from 84 to 75. Started at 91, went to 86, back to 90, then to 84. Now he finally does make a legitimate move up the board a little bit. And this is fine. I still actually really like Jakob Poeltl at 75. Not because I think he's going to blow away that per game marker. I actually think that Poeltl this year probably ends up pretty close to 75. He was 43 last season. I expect his usage to go down, but I expect his games played number to go up. You might even see the minutes tick up a tiny bit. So, top 60, 65. Like, there isn't a ton of per game wiggle room at 75 for Poeltl like there was at 90. But I think he's just going to be really good all year, and I think he's going to play all year. And unless he's actually hurt, I think he's going to be on the court. And I think Jakob could end up being a really nice center in this range. He's one of my favorite centers to take in this particular area of the draft board. And, if he was going at 90, I might color code him as one of my favorites nowadays because Yahoo's adjusted some names and taken a lot of my favorites off the board. But as it stands, I think he's still a pretty good value. This would be, early 7th round kind of thing. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. And finally, and I just thought this one is interesting. He didn't move all that much, but Jimmy Butler went up 5 spots from 44 to 39. He's never a guy that moves up draft boards. It's not that I don't think he belongs at 39. He does. He just never goes this way. And it's super weird to finally see Butler being liked by the fantasy community at large. Once he went to Golden State last year, Butler was pretty damn reliable. He played in 27, I think. Let me get this number right on Jimmy. I don't want to screw this one up. I think he only missed a very small handful of games with Golden State. I don't have the number in front of. Damn it, I don't have that number. He played 30 games with the Warriors. I think he missed like 2 or 3. So he was much more in that 85 to 90% of games played marker instead of with Miami, where he was typically much closer to the 75% marker. I think you're going to get an inspired Jimmy Butler this year, a motivated Jimmy Butler. That's a big deal for someone who's a little bit moody like Butler's been throughout his career. And he's going to be a great steals guy. He's going to be a solid assists guy that you can get typically in the 4th round. Good field goal percent, good free throw percent. He doesn't hit the 3 ball, but you can build around that if you have a lot or if you're leaning away from them anyway. And so, again, I don't hate him at 39. I'm just surprised by it. And I loved him when he was going in the 50s. I was like, this is stupid. This guy's motivated this year. He's going to play. I think he's going to get up to 67 to 70 ball games this year, but maybe I get proven wrong and he's just a hair under that. Having to take him now early 4th round, I think I'd rather go Kawhi at that spot and miss a few more games, but get a 1st rounder as opposed to Jimmy Butler, who's probably going to be a late 2nd, early 3rd per game guy. And maybe he does play in like 3 or 4 more games than Kawhi does. But to me, that's not quite enough to bridge the gap. What I will say is, as much as I like Jimmy Butler as a 4th or 5th rounder, I would still try to pair him up with guys that you feel more confident in their health. So first 3 rounds, try to grab guys that are, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have health risks, but let's say, I wouldn't take Anthony Davis in the 1st and then do Jimmy Butler or Kawhi or Kristaps or Embiid or anybody like that in the 4th or 5th. He's really the big injury risk at the front end. I don't know that I would go Kevin Durant in the 2nd round and then Jimmy Butler or Kawhi in the 4th or 5th. I certainly wouldn't. I don't think I'm taking LaMelo Ball anywhere, but you certainly don't want to go LaMelo and then one of these other risk guys. So if you can, if it's possible, try to take guys in the first 3 rounds that you think are going to get to 70 games played, 68, 69, 70 or better. And there aren't a ton of guys that I'd point at and say, I really have no confidence that guy gets to 70 games. The only ones are probably like AD almost definitely doesn't get to 70 games, but maybe he does. I mean, it's not, nothing's impossible. KD, I think, is going to have a hard time getting to 70. I think Donovan Mitchell actually has a tough time getting to 70, but maybe he gets there. Jalen Johnson, I probably wouldn't pair with these guys. Jalen Williams, because apparently he's not healthy. LeBron, I'm having a hard time drafting LeBron almost anywhere right now because sciatica is tough, man. I don't like that diagnosis. Don't do that path. De'Aaron Fox is going in the 3rd round. So don't pair those guys up. Try to get a healthy guy, and then another one, and then another one, and then you can take Kawhi. Although I'd still take Austin. I'd take Austin Reaves in the 4th and hope you can get Kawhi in the 5th round. He's almost making it to the 5th these days. Anyway, it's just weird to see Jimmy Butler go up the board. That just doesn't happen, and now suddenly it happened. Whatever. All right. That brings us to the end of the program. Please subscribe, friends. That's the big one right now because we do so much stuff and I don't want you to miss any of it. Find me on social media at Dan Vespers. Again, if you have $1, one little buck, 100 little pennies, we have the Patreon over at Old Man Squad. Fantrax.com/Old Man Squad is the link if you want to sign up and try their fantasy website. You don't even have to play if you don't want. Just look around. Check out the commissioner tools. You could make a league just to play with commissioner tools and then delete the league. I don't care. Just check them out because I think you're going to like what you find. And this show's brought to you by HOF, our friends over at HOF and the HOF app. Use promo code SQUAD to get your first week completely free and half off your first month. If you let it ride after that, you can cancel during the first week with no obligation. The HOF app is an amazing tool that gets you ahead of the competition when you are betting on sports. It does the processing of analytics for you. Tens of thousands of data points, everything that could happen, everything that has happened, matchup data, player trends. It puts all that into one machine and churns out likelihoods of outcomes. And that allows you to say, oh, I think this thing is going to happen 70% of the time. Oh, but it's priced to happen 57% of the time. I found a value against the number. Bingo bango. Promo code SQUAD. That's HOF on smart devices. Or go to hofapp.com. Like me, I'm an old man. I like to do things on a monitor with a big PC. And you can sign up there today. These were the risers. If my voice holds up, we will do the fallers a little bit later on today. No teasers. You know what? Screw that. I will give you a teaser on this show. Let's put that screen back up there and scroll down, and you're going to get to see some of these guys: Braun, Bane, Sabonis, Paul George, Ivica Zubac, D'Lo, Tobias, RJ, Herb, Drew, Lonzo, Josh Hart. Oh, I forgot to talk about Nikola Jovic on today's show. He's up a bunch, and I'm not sold yet. He's probably going to make it into my Flyers boards, but I'm not totally sold yet. It's a good thing we did that teaser at the end. I forgot about Jovic. I meant to put him on the list, but I hadn't cataloged him on this previous spot. All right, now I'm out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Dan Vespers for Old Man Squad, presented by FanDuel. See you later.